Today on Hearts of Heroes, a Cat 4 hurricane slams into the Louisiana coast.
The amount of destruction that was out here was unbelievable.
And first responders are directly in its path.
We realized that this storm was going to come almost on top of us.
Then, when the storm surge recedes, heroes come to the rescue of a young dolphin.
We knew that we had to get our hands on this dolphin quickly.
We're coming to this shore.
No matter what perils they face, our first responders will always risk their own lives to save all of ours.
When a major hurricane threatens a coast, you'll often see officials ask people to evacuate or make it mandatory. And they should, especially where storm surge is going to be high.
But so often, our brave first responders remain behind and face the wrath of these treacherous weather events.
The small community of Chauvin is located in the Terrebonne parish of southeastern Louisiana. The coastal deltas provide a nice living for most of the folks that call this home.
It's a nice little quiet community where everybody knows everybody and everybody's willing to help anybody they can.
While life is pretty quiet in this community of only 4,000 people, when hurricane season ramps up at the end of summer, they know they've got to prepare for wild weather.
Hurricane season is a very stressful time. Everyone begins hurricane season praying that it never happens here. But basically about every 3 to 4 years, we have a hurricane that affects this area.
Deputy Fire Chief Jude Landry knows firsthand how powerful and devastating these storms can be.
So I've seen several. I've rebuilt my home 3 times. The resiliency of this community is amazing. I don't know why, but people just want to stay and live here no matter what the danger is that comes forth.
In August of 2021, Hurricane Ida began spinning in the Caribbean. For the next few days, people started to prepare. They knew the hurricane was coming and it would turn into a Cat 4 monster.
Watching it grow bigger and bigger and bigger, the concern was even much greater than it normally would be.
First thing we try to do is prepare all our equipment and make sure that it's ready to go. Make sure that everything's fueled up and that all our equipment's in a position that we can use it and we can safely keep it away from any dangers.
But as Ida moved closer to shore, it rapidly intensified. While most people had evacuated their homes as they had been asked, the dedicated members of Chauvin's fire department stayed behind.
Even though their own lives were at risk, these brave heroes were not going to abandon their post. They were not only going to face the storm, but the aftermath Ida would undoubtedly bring.
On August 29th, Ida hit.
Whoa!
Fire Chief Marty Thibodeau and some of his firefighters were sheltering at the station.
Well, the storm originally came when the wind started picking up, and we have windows here, impact-resistant windows, so we get a chance to sit like we're in a cage and watch everything blow by.
Once it really started to pick up, we were inside, kind of watching through windows, and stress levels going everywhere as it got worse.
As it was getting much stronger, we started looking at our phones, the radars, and stuff on TV, and realized the storm was going to come almost on top of us.
As the storm roared closer, the destruction started happening all around them.
We're just watching debris flying everywhere. So, I mean, there's boat sheds and things that's being destroyed. There's stuff flying all over the place. The debris hitting the building, and we're just watching everything getting demolished through those windows.
To see that, it's just, you can't, there's no way to prepare for what you're seeing.
Ida was a major hurricane for more than 9 hours over land. That's something that's never happened since modern records began in the 1960s. Even though the fire station was made of solid brick, it was no match for this storm.
We started losing the edge of the building there, and water started coming in at all the edges of the building. And we could hear a noise coming from the roof, that the roof was peeling up.
Suddenly, a section of roof from an adjacent building was ripped off.
That roof came up across and hit the backside of the station, and it just started opening the station up. All of a sudden, we started having all kind of damage on the opposite side of the building. I never thought in my life that I'd ever be in this building being concerned about it falling apart around me. And this particular storm pretty much did that.
After 4 unrelenting hours, the storm finally passed. While their building had miraculously remained standing, they would now have to face the piles of debris that was once their town outside those station walls.
The amount of destruction that was out here was unbelievable.
Coming up, with the station in shambles, first responders still have to get to work.
We knew this fire was really kicking, and there's no way we could try to extinguish it with the water we were carrying.
But first, this safety tip.
Natural disasters can disrupt power for days at a time.
Having flashlights, lanterns, extra batteries easily accessible in your home can keep you safe from potential hazards when the power goes out.
Remember, a little extra time is worth the peace of mind.
In August of 2021, Hurricane Ida slammed into the Gulf Coast. While most of the people who live in Chauvin, Louisiana had evacuated their homes as asked, firefighters Marty Thibodeau and Jared Hall stayed behind to respond to the aftermath.
This is by far the absolute worst that I've ever been through. From a lot of people I've talked to, this is the worst storm they've had in 100 years. This is the 100-year storm.
Their station had taken a beating, but it was still standing. When the storm passed, they got a full view of the destruction that Ida had left behind.
It's just devastating. You go in some of the streets, and every house on that street is completely destroyed.
Jared immediately needed to know what had happened to his own home.
We can sometimes forget that these first responders live in the communities they serve. So when a disaster strikes, they are just as likely to be affected as anyone else.
Unfortunately, when Jared arrived home, it was not a pretty scene.
My house was completely destroyed. The entire roof over the house had completely come off. It was in my yard, my neighbor's yard. Every room you go into, you can see sky. Words just can't describe the pain and the emotional factor of it.
Despite his personal loss, Jared and the rest of the first responders knew that they had a lot of work to do.
We're still out taking care of everybody, taking care of everything, clearing roads. You know, people need help, we're still out there helping them.
After spending the entire day removing debris and telephone wires from the roads, the team finally went back to the station to get some much-needed rest.
That night ended kind of the early morning hours, and then all of a sudden we realized I'm being awakened that we have a structural fire.
A few miles away, a house caught on fire, but the storm had busted the water lines, so the fire hydrants were useless. The only water they had to fight fires with was what they were carrying already on their trucks. Still, they knew they had to try.
As we got just a mile or so from there, we could actually see the glow in the sky. We knew this fire was really kicking. And there's no way we could try to extinguish it with the water we were carrying.
As they pulled up to the fire, their radios went dead, meaning that they had no way to communicate their location to backup firefighters.
I remember standing in the backyard, realizing I can't talk to anybody. There's no water in the pipes, no water in the hydrants. And I remember looking up in the sky, I said, God, really? Give us a break.
Just then, something miraculous happened.
All of a sudden, a hard rain started. Right up, just like a snap of a finger. It started raining, a downpour. It threw water all over the exposures. Everything started steaming. It really made a difference.
With the water from their trucks and a little help from above, they were able to extinguish the fire. But this rescue wasn't quite over yet. For the next 24 hours, the team worked nonstop.
That day was just one of the longest days of my life that just started from one end of this community to the other, trying to open the roads up and close gas lines.
While first responders worked to restore Chauvin, they still had the station to deal with. The storm had caused major damage to the building. By chance, they happened to meet James Riggio from our sponsor, Belfour Property Restoration.
I had noticed there were 4 people on a roof, and as I got closer, I noticed it was firefighters, and I immediately thought, that was strange to have firefighters tarping their own roof.
James offered some help, and the department happily accepted.
The damage was mainly roof damage. The roof had peeled back on this back part.
For this project, time was of the essence.
They explained to us that this was their only hub at the time. They had already lost 2 fire stations right down the road. We knew the importance, and it was critical to try and get them up and running as quickly as possible.
In just 2 days, Belfour had repaired the building and got them back up and running. In the months after the storm, the community is still working on rebuilding and looking toward the future.
Community response is always very welcoming and overwhelming. I mean, they tend to pull together, help each other, and feed off each other.
We're still here, we're still kicking, and as long as we're able to, we will be. You know, that's what we're here for, to serve and protect the community, and that's what we're doing.
Coming up, after Hurricane Ida raked across southeast Louisiana, plenty of humans and even a dolphin needed help.
It was a first for everybody, something that we've never been involved with.
You're in the standing, I'm standing. This is all good water.
All natural disasters, and obviously hurricanes, can put countless lives in danger.
But when Ida hit the Gulf Coast, it wasn't just people who needed rescuing.
33 miles northeast of New Orleans, the city of Slidell sits on the far eastern side of Lake Pontchartrain on the Louisiana coast.
St. Tammany Parish goes from the state of Mississippi on I-10 to Tangipahoa Parish. Geographically, it's one of the largest in the state.
Because it's surrounded by ocean, rivers, and bayous, first responders are pretty well versed at water rescues.
We have the most navigable waterways in the whole state. Our Marine division is pretty big. We have a bunch of boats, we have a helicopter. We make water rescues throughout the year.
While they perform year-round water rescues, during hurricane season, they are on high alert.
Hurricane season for us lasts from approximately August to October, November. Every hurricane season, we make sure we're prepared with all of our high water vehicles are functional and ready to go.
This means paying close attention to the forecast.
When a storm is expected to hit us, we station our high water vehicles and our boats in different areas throughout the parish.
In August of 2021, the city of Slidell was bracing for Hurricane Ida.
Hurricane Ida was a very powerful storm. Here, we had a lot of wind damage and a lot of power lines down, power poles, trees, because it was dry and it just split trees in half.
Hurricane Ida had caused massive amounts of damage, but it wasn't just the powerful winds they had to deal with.
It also had a large tidal surge. Lake Pontchartrain is right behind, so when the water gets pushed up from the lake, it pushes into these tributaries, which raises in the neighborhoods and on the streets.
Once the storm surge receded, the impacts were everywhere.
September the 2nd, a resident notified our community relations guy in this area that there was possibly a dolphin stuck in a canal. And this canal's got a pumping station on one side and it's dammed off on the other side.
It may seem unbelievable, but it really isn't that uncommon. As water rises with the surge, it can carry with it ocean-dwelling creatures like fish and dolphins. But as the water recedes, those animals can get trapped in lakes, ponds, and bayous. Brant Gabriel is supervisor of rescue for SeaWorld in Orlando.
One of the things that people don't think about, but we're dealing with storm surge. You know, whether it's a dolphin or a manatee, when these tidal waters start to raise, animals get out of habitat.
Brant had seen this before.
And this happened a couple of years ago. We had manatees going over spill wells that are now trapped in ponds around golf courses because of these high tidals that are coming in and pushing these animals into locations that they can't get back out of once those waters start to go down.
Sheriff Captain Lance Vitter has performed countless water rescues of humans, but rescuing a dolphin was definitely something outside of his experience.
It was a first for everybody, something that we've never been involved with.
Captain Vitter knew he needed outside help.
We notified the Wildlife and Fisheries for the state, who got in touch with the federal authorities, and ultimately the Audubon Institute and SeaWorld and all of them got involved.
The dolphin's life was in grave danger, and there was no time to lose.
This dolphin has the opportunity, if we don't get to it, to die from fresh water, to die from entrapment. If someone turns the pumps on and he gets pulled into an intake valve, all sorts of issues. So responding to this animal as quick as we could was hugely important.
Coming up, with time running out, the rescue team has to move fast.
We knew that we had to get our hands on this dolphin quickly.
I get enough, I'm gonna send a rope back to be able to do a shore pull back into the catweeds.
But first, another safety tip.
Keeping an emergency kit on hand can give you peace of mind if you ever have to evacuate your home during a disaster.
Each person should have a kit that's easy for them to carry. Helpful items to include are medications, food, documentation, and even extra clothes.
Remember, when a natural disaster strikes close to home, you don't want to be caught unprepared.
In August of 2021, Hurricane Ida made landfall on the Gulf Coast of Louisiana. Winds gusted above 150 miles per hour. As forecast, the storm also brought significant storm surge. Sheriff Captain Lance Vitter, along with other first responders, stayed busy with multiple water rescues.
During Hurricane Ida, we made 50-something rescues of people out of houses that they couldn't get out of without electricity. They needed to get to higher ground.
But as the flooding receded, first responders saw a very different kind of rescue ahead of them. A young dolphin trapped in a closed-off canal with no way to escape.
In this situation, we had a dolphin that kind of basically swept over into a location that it could not get out of. It was in a canal, and those canals are set up to pump water back away from the people.
The dolphin was swimming in this area right here because it's the deepest part of the canal.
Captain Vitter knew that they didn't have the resources to save the dolphin, so they called SeaWorld in Orlando.
SeaWorld's primary goal is to rescue, rehabilitate, and return every animal back out to their natural environment.
Because dolphins live in saltwater, being in a freshwater environment for too long can be fatal.
One of the things we really assess is what's called a freshwater lesion. It looks like a pock or the skin starts to peel and gets weird looking. It can be deadly. If a saltwater animal, marine mammal, is sitting in freshwater too long, this can really become a life-threatening situation.
The team from SeaWorld loaded up their equipment and headed to Louisiana. Once there, the team jumped into action and a crowd cheered them on.
The first thing we saw were hundreds of people standing on the shoreline waiting to see this animal get rescued.
I get enough, I'm gonna send a rope back to be able to do a shore pull back into the catweeds.
As they got in the water, they began setting up nets around the dolphin.
We knew that we had to get our hands on this dolphin quickly.
Once the team set up the nets, they formed a horseshoe around the dolphin.
Then we can all work together and just slowly bring this dolphin into a location that our teams can get hands on this dolphin and get him moved out of the water.
The team was very mindful not to spook the animal.
This is something completely new to this dolphin. He's not used to these aliens coming in here and handling him, you know? So we wanted to make sure the dolphin was calm, make sure he's breathing properly, and then kind of get him moved to the next location.
One of the things about this dolphin is he never showed any signs of distress. He was calm, he was relaxed. We walked over and really calmly let him swim around a couple times and then just grabbed him.
Okay. All right, everybody stop, we're good.
Next, veterinarians checked the dolphin's vitals. Fortunately, he was in good shape.
Do a quick slide towards me. And then we got him into a stretcher and into the truck getting ready for the release.
Hey, let's go. There's a breath shell, but it's good.
They decided to release the dolphin in neighboring Mississippi. They knew they had to get him there as soon as possible.
Time is of an essence for us, so we got a police escort, and that police escort was quite large. They had it set up. We had to cross state lines, so they reached over to the Mississippi side and had them meet at the line so we can continue the transport without any slowing down.
I would say it would be the first time that a dolphin's been given a police escort.
Once at the release site in Mississippi, the team from SeaWorld tagged the dolphin.
We need to make sure that animal actually is behaving normally. If this animal is not acting correctly or something goes wrong, we'll bring our gear back up. We will go back, we will rescue it again, and make sure we put in the appropriate setup if needed.
And with that, they placed the beautiful creature into the water and said goodbye.
He bolted out probably 100 yards, turned around, sort of came back, turned around and took off.
We gave it the name Operation Rescue Flipper because, it gave it a little, comical notion to it. But, everything couldn't have been any better.
I've done a lot of rescues in the 25 years. I have never seen a community so involved in this process as I did with Slidell.
To watch close to 40 people come together on a holiday weekend to quickly try to rescue an animal and to do it, successfully return it, That's past the success. That's like a home run grand slam.
We should all be grateful for the well-trained heroes who are always ready to come to the rescue.
And that's true no matter who you are, man, woman, or even a dolphin. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.